Hello boys and girls, this is Professor Nelson of Electronics. Today we're going to see how to install a Bluetooth module that has an FM radio. It has a USB input and a micro SD card slot. It also has auxiliary inputs. These modules, or sound systems, or Bluetooth music receivers, are a great option for when our sound systems break down. Since these modules, as I mentioned, have a Bluetooth signal or Bluetooth connection. Additionally, we can use the USB connector to play our music. And using the buttons, you can select the operating modes or music, as well as increase and decrease the volume. It's quite versatile and, honestly, very convenient, whether you're building your own sound systems, or repairing a damaged sound system, or upgrading a sound system to have a Bluetooth connection. But the downside to these modules is that they vary greatly. This means that at some point, you'll find this type of module where the front usually stays the same. But the board is the one that usually changes, as well as its connections. Sometimes they have many more. And sometimes they have these connectors organized differently. So there's a variety, and honestly, finding the data sheet is very complicated. So now we'll see how to make the connections if you have different types of modules. Well, without further ado, let's begin. Very well. Now, the first thing is the power supply. For the power supply, they give us a cable that has its own red connector. Normally, the power connector is easy to distinguish. The power supply can be found in different places, since, as I said, it depends a lot on the motherboard model. Likewise, the white connections for the headphones or antenna can be scattered. The first thing is the power supply. You'll always find it with this red connector distinction. Sometimes it doesn't tell us which is positive and which is negative. But luckily, in my case, it tells us which is positive and which is negative. As you can see, the pin on the right side would be positive, and the one on the left would be negative. Now, if you don't have a reference, and you don't know which is positive and which is negative, well, you have to base your analysis on both the voltage regulator and the capacitor that comes with the module, since all power supplies will always have an electrolytic capacitor, which will try to keep the power supply stable. Well, now the first thing we'll look at is the power supply. What voltage can this device operate with? It can normally operate with 5 volts. The most important thing is the maximum voltage. Knowing the maximum voltage it can handle is very important, so you can connect it to your car's battery, or in the case of trucks that operate at 24 volts. Find out if they can connect it to 24 volts, or if they can connect it to 12 volts. Well, that depends on the voltage regulator. This one here. This is the voltage regulator, because when you connect a power supply through this connector, that power won't go directly to the components, but it will first go to the voltage regulator. The voltage regulator, this one here, is the 78M05. Keep in mind that it has an M, which stands for the type of casing. This type of regulator, according to the data sheet, also has many versions. Because I find some that say they work up to a maximum of 25 volts, and in some cases up to 35 volts. As for the maximum amperage of this model, it's 1 ampere. That means it can deliver a maximum of 1 ampere, and it can work up to a maximum of 35 volts. But if you want me to test it with 24 volts and see if it can handle it or not, then write it in the comments so we can test this regulator with 24 volts. For now, we'll use 12 volts, which is the most common voltage found in cars. The connections are as follows. Pin 1 is the voltage input, meaning the car's 12 volts would come in here. GND, or negative, is basically the plate or tap where the heat is dispersed. And then pin 3 would be the 5-volt output. As I mentioned, if you don't have the silkscreen here, indicating which is positive and which is negative, You can use the connections to the voltage regulator. For that, we'll do some tests. Very well. Now we're going to measure continuity. The idea in this case is to know which is negative and which is positive. First, let's test the negative. The negative would be the metal heatsink. We're going to touch the metal part. And as for the connections, we're going to touch any of the pins. That one isn't negative. That one is negative. So this one on the right would be negative. The positive is pin 1. So that would be positive. We're going to touch the positive. And we're going to touch the pins. This left side would be positive. This way, you'll find which is positive and which is negative on the power cable if you don't have the silkscreen on the module. Okay, let's move on to the next connections. Very well, guys. Now for the connections, we have this diagram, where it tells us that the connector has an antenna, a right output, negative, left output. These would be the contacts we have here on our cables. The one with a red line would be the antenna. This would be the antenna, and the other would be the right output. These other two cables would be negative and left output. Negative is this one, and this would be the left output. We're only going to use negative and the left output. We're not going to use the right output. Only negative and left output. The negative must be connected to the negative of the amplifier. The audio amplifier is this one here. It's a homemade audio amplifier based on the TDA 2003. The TDA 2003 is a 10-watt amplifier. It has a 3.5 mm connector, and a power input, and an output for the speaker. Now let's make the connections. We'll solder the negative to the back. The negative will go here, since it's the negative of the board. And the audio signal will enter here. In this case, the left output. We'll connect this signal right here. And this other one would be the right signal, but we won't use it. We'll only use the left signal. We'll connect it here. I'll solder this here. Okay, let's move on to soldering. We connect the negative, and this would be the signal. Done. This is negative, and that's the signal. Now let's connect it to the module, and we'll make the missing connections so we can hear the audio. Okay guys, now let's connect the power supply to the circuit. It's based on the diagram where we have all the connections. We'll power it with a power adapter.
Bluetooth mode.
Now to measure the voltage. Let's check it on the audio amplifier. There we have 12 volts. We're working with 12 volts. Now let's change the modes.
Turn them up.
That would be the radio. Now let's insert the flash memory.
Play by USB drive.
can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.
Okay, that was good. See, it's not fake. You just saw how the integrated circuit jumped to the side. Okay, guys, that's all. Now if you like the video, don't forget that a like helps the channel a lot. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.